Hey guys, we're going to be learning about adding and subtracting integers in this video. Alright, so integers, if you remember, are numbers, are all the whole numbers and their opposites, okay? So positive, negative numbers, okay, so we're going to look at how to add and subtract them. So it says integers can also be added and subtracted using an algorithm. Okay, that's not very important to know, but basically it's just a set of rules. Okay, so when we're adding integers, we go by this set of rules. If two values have the same sign, then all we do is add and use that same sign. Okay, so an example of that, 6 and 5, okay, when we have 6 plus 5, they're the same. They're both positive. So all we have to do is add those two numbers, and they remain positive. And so when you add 6 and 5, you get 11, and it remains positive. Okay, so that's one example. Now on the flip side, if you have a negative and a negative, that answer is going to be negative as well, and all you have to do is add the numbers. So look, you have negative 6 and negative 5. They're both negative, so we know the answer is going to be negative, and then all we do is add the two. 6 plus 5 is 11, so that's how you come up with negative 11. Okay, so when the two numbers that you're adding have the same sign, all you do is add and keep that same sign. Okay, so very simple. Now where it gets a little trickier is if the signs are different. So if the signs are different, we have a different rule. So if they are different, then what we do is we subtract the two numbers and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Okay, so you might not know what absolute value is. Okay, absolute value is just the distance on a number line that that number is from 0. So for example, if you look up here at the top, I'll draw it real quick. If here's a number line, okay, and here's the number 0, and you want to figure out what the absolute value of 3 is, okay, well 3 is 3 units away from 0, therefore the absolute value of 3 would be 3. Now absolute value bars look like this. Okay, that just means absolute value. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. Okay, now if you had a number like negative 5, we'll just say negative 5, well that's 5 units away. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 units away from 0. So the absolute value of negative 5 would be 5. Okay, so that's how you, just a quick way of how you do absolute value, and we can look at that more in class if we need extra time with that. Well, here's a couple of examples down here. Okay, positive 6 plus negative 5. Okay, well, you just subtract the two numbers, so that's how you get 1. Okay, but to determine whether it's positive or negative, we look and see which one has a greater absolute value. So the absolute value of 6 equals 6. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5. Okay, well 6 had a greater absolute value and it's positive. That means this is going to stay positive. Okay, so that's how they came up with 1. Now, look at this one over here. Negative 6 plus 5. Okay, well the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. The absolute value of 5 is 5. So right off the bat, the one with the negative number had the greater absolute value, so we know this is going to be a negative answer. Then all we do is subtract the two numbers. 6 minus 5 is 1. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do it. And we'll do a couple more examples to show, but that is how you add integers. So we're not going to go through all of these. We're just going to do a couple of examples. So let's look at, let's just go on column A. Okay, right here we'll do negative 9 plus 6. So first we look at the signs. They're different, right? One's negative, one's positive. Therefore, we have to look at the absolute value of each. So the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. The absolute value of 6 is 6. Well, which one's greater? Okay, negative 9 has a greater absolute value, so we know this is going to be a negative answer. Okay, now, if you refer back to your notes, what do you do now? You just subtract the two numbers. 9 minus 6 is 3, so this is negative 3. All right, now let's look at, over here on column D, we'll look at this one. All right, so negative 6 and negative 8, well, those are both negative, okay? So in that case, the answer is going to stay negative, and if they're both the same, remember, they're both negative, so all we have to do is add them now. That's negative 14. Okay. Now, here's a similar example. If you have positive 3 and positive 9, okay, those are both positive, so you know their answer is going to be positive, and you just add them together. 9 plus 3 is 12. Okay, so these type problems are really the easiest, and that's when you have two numbers that are the same sign. So either they're both positive or they're both negative. Okay, those are the easier ones. All right, let's look at another one where they're different. So let's just look at this one right here. Okay, we have to find the absolute value because they're both different. So the absolute value of 2 is 2. The absolute value of negative 6 is 6. Okay, so it's going to be a negative answer because the term that is negative had the greater absolute value. Now we just subtract the two numbers. 6 minus 2 is 4, so this is negative 4. Okay, I'll let you all work through these problems. Now, the importance of these numbers down here, okay, what that means is if you want to do all these problems and then check, what you would do is, like say you get answers for each one of these problems. Okay, let me do it in a different color. So if you get the answer for this one, this one, this one, this one, then add them all together, you should get 13. Okay, so that's just one way you can check. I will just go through and do these problems. We're not going to do them in the video. But we're going to go back over these in class. Okay, so I would, if you want to, go ahead and do these, and just for some extra practice. When we are subtracting integers, okay, we have a different set of rules, but it actually kind of winds up being the same. Okay, so in all the years I've taught math, you know, I asked the question, what do you like better? What's easier, adding or subtracting? And 9 out of 10 students are going to say they like adding better. They think it's easier. Okay, well, going along with that theme, we can do something that makes these subtraction problems a little easier, and we use something called the additive inverse. Okay, so the additive inverse says that when a number and its opposite, when a number and its opposite are added, the sum is 0. And it says this is like similar to adding a 0 pair with counters. Okay? Now, what that allows us to do is rewrite the problem to add the opposite. Okay? So what it's going to allow us to do is add the opposite without changing the value. Okay? So then we just follow the rules for adding integers. So there's also a method called keep, change, change. So here's an example of that. We keep the first term the same, so that's going to be negative 5. We change that subtraction sign to an addition sign, and then we change that positive 9 to negative 9. Okay, so what we've just done, all right, we've changed negative 5 minus 9 to where now it looks like negative 5 plus negative 9. And that's a whole lot easier to do now. Okay, then we just follow the steps from adding. They're both the same, negative and negative, so we know the answer is going to be negative, and then we just add the two numbers, so that's negative 14. Okay, pretty simple, right? Now, let's try it again with this next problem. Let me move my 14 out of the way. Okay, I'll just write that over here. Negative 14 for this one. Okay, so like this one, we're going to keep the 8 the same. We're going to change that minus sign to an addition sign, and then we're going to change that negative 3 to a positive 3. So 8 minus negative 3 now just becomes 8 plus 3. That's easy. Both terms are positive, so this is going to remain positive, and then we do 8 plus 3, and we get 11. Okay? Let's do the last one. Negative 2, we're going to keep that the same. Negative 2. We're going to change that minus sign to an addition sign, and then we're going to change that negative 10 to a positive 10. Okay? Now we have a negative and a positive. So what do we do in that case? Revert back to when we learned about adding. We take the absolute value of both. So the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. The absolute value of 10 is 10. Which one has a greater absolute value? That would be 10. And 10 is positive, so this answer is going to be positive. And then remember, all we do now is subtract the two numbers. 10 minus 2 is 8, so the answer to this is positive 8. All right. Again, you have a similar to the adding, where you just answer these problems, come up with your answers, and then add them up. And then the row, or I'm sorry, each column up and down should give you some negative 19, 31, 4, and 1. This is just a way to check, and we'll go over this in class. But if you want to do these to get some extra work in, to get some examples, by all means go ahead and do that, but we'll go over it in class. That is it for this video. Thank y'all for watching.